Welcome to Global Socialpreneurs, a one-of-a-kind talk show showcasing expert social entrepreneurs. Learn their stories and their secrets to creating a sustainable impact. Now, here are your hosts, social entrepreneurs Ann Scottlin and Shametria Gonzales.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Global Socialpreneurs. I'm so excited about this. This has been a long time in the making and a real dream come true. We are Global Socialpreneurs. This is my co-host, Shametria Gonzales. Hello. Who's joining us today. She had a very late night and a very early morning, so we're just glad she was able to be here with us, and you're going to get to know her a lot more as we go forward. So what is a socialpreneur? Some people have been asking. It hasn't quite hit the mainstream conversation yet. It's amazing, actually, who doesn't know what a socialpreneur is. Well, you know what an entrepreneur is. Well, a socialpreneur is someone who basically does the same thing, but instead of the purpose being to get rich and make a lot of money, the purpose is to solve a very specific social problem and create a for-profit business that can create a sustainable impact. So that doesn't mean the founders can't get paid. That doesn't mean the employees can't get paid. Hopefully everybody gets paid, but that's how it's set up. Instead of being a traditional nonprofit where you rely on fundraising and grants, social entrepreneurship is how can we build a smart business that helps solve a problem on the ground in real time. Shametria, how do you see social entrepreneurship?
Man, I see social entrepreneurship as a group of people coming together as socialites. That's a new word I'm coining.
Woo! I love it. Social life. That's amazing. I love it. Okay, that's amazing. Yes. Perfect. Yes. So people coming together to create good, to create change, and to find new and original ways to do it. And I'd like to share one example with you that is just a pet example of mine, but one of the things I love about social entrepreneurship is that it can take place anywhere in the world, anytime, and any social or economic level. It doesn't matter where you are or what you do. It's something you can still do or be involved in. For example, if you can be a social entrepreneur, even if you wash clothes in the river for a living, because you can go door to door in your community and say, hey, I wash clothes for a living. I know someone else washes your clothes, but I'm giving 30% of my profits to the local orphanage, and I would love it if you would like to help support them. Well, what happens? People want to be involved instead of money going just into someone else's pocket. They want to be involved in supporting their local efforts, right? Their local kids, their local orphanage. So you get a lot more business. Ideally, and sometimes it takes time, but say you double your business, you're definitely making more money than you were before, and you're also giving 30% to your cause. So everyone gets a win. The orphans get a win. The person doing the business can get a win by increasing their income because they've increased their client base. And even the clients get a win because not only do they get the product or service that they needed anyway, but they feel good about themselves putting it towards an amazing cause. So that's what I love about global entrepreneurship and the impact it can make on a global level. What else, Shametria, really gets you excited about social entrepreneurship?
Man, for me, it's about connecting people to resources. And then I always say there's 3 P's: turn your pain into purpose and your purpose into profit. And so for myself, as somebody who is a survivor, who has come from a lot of different backgrounds, I love the fact that I can be an entrepreneur and I can make money, but then I can also give those resources back and allow those resources to pay it forward, because I was somebody who had someone who gave me resources and I was able to use that and actually change my life. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, their why, it can't just be that you want to create a business or you want to sell property or you want to, if you can connect that to something that is bigger than you, then the amount of money you make is going to be in proportion to the people you serve. That's how I look at it.
Yes. No, I absolutely love that. It's so true. And today we are going to talk a little bit about social entrepreneurship, since we are both social entrepreneurs, and we're going to share with you a little bit more about that more towards the end of the show, because I think it's so important to know the story that takes us to that place. And many of you know my story already, so I won't be sharing that particular one today. But one thing that Shametria and I share in common is coming from a background where we were taught a lot of things and programmed in a certain way. I'm not going to use the word brainwashing, but let's just understand what we're talking about here. To believe the world operates in a certain way, as when we were young, and set us in a self-destructive path that was filled with fear and anxiety, sometimes lack, sometimes poverty, and finding our way out has given us both a real heart for changing the world so that other people can find their out sooner, or if better yet, can prevent getting into these positions sometimes in the first place. So today I'm super excited. This episode is actually going to be introducing you mostly to Shametria, since again, most of you know my story, and her story, and really so you can see what motivates people to become a social entrepreneur. Why is it so important, and why do they choose to do it? So Shametria, what would you like to share? I'm just opening the floor to you. I'm just here to be your sounding board. Let's share. Tell me your story. Tell me where you came from originally.
Yeah, so basically, I like to tell people that I was a small town country girl who had a really big dream, right? So from the moment that I was born, I was a fighter. So I was born to parents that were addicted to drugs. And I was born with something called crack in my system. It's a drug. And I was born very small, like a little over 3 pounds. So from that day forward, I was fighting for my life. And I think that resilience and, from moving on from being crack in my system, I went from kind of foster care to foster care. Then I went to get adopted. Then I was kind of with different family members. But one thing I tell people, I didn't know that I was poor. I didn't know that I didn't have other things or that anything that was wrong with me. I just thought that that was normal life for everybody. So I think that mindset allowed me to be able to go and just kind of explore socially, right? So that means that every single space that I was in, I had to learn how to adapt to people. So my gift became people, learning how to deal with people, how to talk to people, how to, be in different environments, how to be grateful for everything I had because I never had too much, right? I think the spirit of gratitude just became my attitude. Like I adopted that as a principal way of how I live my life. So 15 years old, I'd been through all these different adversities. I had one person who cared about me. She was my school counselor. So I went to her and I was like, look, when I was born, I had all these complications. I have this person I'm living with, which is a foster home. They get money for me. Like I found out they got checks for me. And when you are a kid in the system and you have complications, they give you like extra money. Like, so she was like, I talked to her. She was like, look, have you ever heard of something called emancipation? I was like, no, what's that? She was like, well, emancipation is where you go and you free yourself through the state to be legally an adult. They'll give you your own money. You just have to provide this, this, and this. So I went to court, emancipated myself, got a job at Sonic Drive-In, moved from the country to the big city. And after that, it was like my life changed, right? Like I thought that I was grown. I was doing everything I needed to do. And eventually I got a job at Sonic Drive-In and I was going to school. Like I was so proud of myself. I had made it to me. But I did not know that there was something in the big city that people do, and it's called trafficking. So they
So
look
how
for
old were you here, like at Sonic?
Yeah, so I was 15 years old at Sonic
15.
Drive.
Okay.
15 years old. I had emancipated myself. I was on my own. I was going to school, like living my best life. I thought I was so proud of myself. Like I love to tell people about that part of it because I really did in that moment think that I had made it. I was like, my life is about to be amazing. But the reason that I go from there to like, I didn't know about trafficking is because the women that I was working at Sonic Drive-In and these women would come And they came in nice cars, beautiful women, and they would talk to me. They would be like, hey, how much money you make? You're so beautiful. Tell us, what's going on with you? Why are you at work every day? I worked every day. I was working right across the street from my high school. These are key factors in what they look for. They look for young girls who are working, that don't have anybody to look after them, that don't have anybody to be a part of their life. And they basically, vetted me. And these were women. So this part of my story is probably the biggest turning point for me, because without that space for them to find me and vet me, I would have never been in that situation to be trafficked if I had somebody to just talk to and tell them what's going on. So 15 years old, these women coerced me. They're like, look, you need to make more money. I never had money, so that didn't get me. But they were like, well, you need a family. I'm like, I do need a family. They were like, you need somebody to protect you. I do need somebody to protect me. And they were like, you need a father figure. So they take me, they introduce me to this man. His name's Snake. And he tells me, first of all, he wows me. He does stuff to me that I'd never had done to me before. Treats me like a princess the first day, talks to me, does all this stuff to get me to feel comfortable. And says, you're about to be a part of our family. And the only rules is that you have to pull your weight. I'm going to help you be a waitress. You don't make money, but you get a house, you get a ride anywhere you need to go, and you get protection. And you get to be a part of something bigger than you. You get to be a part of a family. So
now let me ask about that, because that's just really incredible. So the lead into this, that what's so critical, is the fact that you were recruited by women who appeared to be successful, beautiful women, and they were the ones who recruited you. And you needed belonging. You'd never really had belonging, right? So if he offers to take care of you and dress you well and live in a house with other people that are part of this family and keep you safe, that's amazing. But it's safe more because you don't know that you're an asset. You think you're just part of a family member, right? Wow. Yeah.
So that's when the pivot happened. So we go down, first I was a small town country girl, didn't really have too much going on in my life, kind of tossed around. I free myself. I'm happy. I'm working. I have a system. I have support from the system, from my coaches in school. And then I meet these women, and then I go off and go with them. And now after that, first they started waitressing, which I did. It kind of like nobody hit me. They weren't mean to me. I was in a mansion. These were multi-millionaires. There were high clientele. I wasn't walking the street. Like, I want people to know that the ways that in America, this is in America, in Texas, that I was coerced and that I was vetted in, was very much so like a organized system of crime that it pacifies you. And as it goes on, it went from waitressing to dancing to taking a shot, go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep, wake up. And that's when I knew, like, that was 3 years into it. It was not like if they would have just gave me a shot and I was going to sleep, waking up, and my life went from school and to student athlete and someone that I was on student council. Like, I really prided myself in getting emancipated and doing for myself. I was still this person. I just got involved with the wrong people that I thought were family. And it was like,
when you say a shot, you mean not just a shot of alcohol. You mean an injection.
No. And we had a private doctor. And so he would come to the house. Yeah. If anytime a woman had a woman issue, anytime you felt any way, anytime you had a problem, sick, anything, you get a shot, you get pills, you never go to the hospital. They have somebody private, that's a doctor that comes and takes care of you. And there, no paperwork, no Medicaid. Like
Right.
it's all in the system. Pregnant, they had a person to do abortions. That's why I hid my pregnancy. I'll get to that in a little bit. But
so when they gave you, what were you getting injected with? So let's say you're paired up with a client, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
From after dancing or whatever you're doing, and then you pause and you get given a shot. And what is that shot doing?
It makes you forget.
Wow.
It would be this moment of what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and then you wake up. That's the best way I can really describe it. Till this day, I tell people that I speak from my heart and I speak from spirit, because I don't remember anything. It still has complications till this day of my memory. I have to write everything down. I have to have a schedule, a calendar. I literally have like all these notes and sticky things because my memory doesn't work like that. And I will forget things like if I don't have it written down. So I suffer from that complication. I don't know what it was, but it's kind of like Molly, if that makes sense.
So long-term results, though, which I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think of, that using that over years, it actually can affect you forever, right? In those doses.
Yeah, seriously. And basically after that, it started to get really bad because I was 17 at the time when we started the shots, and we would go to something called like a penthouse. Like, we're at the top of the best hotels in Dallas, in Frisco, in Little Elm. And we'd go there, and there, every day it'd be like somebody different. Mm-hmm. And eventually I stopped going to school. Mm-hmm. So that was the first red flag. I took my ACTs, I took my SATs. Like, y'all, when you think of a double life, like this is like real deal double life, but I still had enough in me to not give up on education. Like, I just knew it made me feel like I was doing, like something of importance. So that was the energy that I brought into the same work of working with my trafficker and with my women in there. And I made a lot of money. My fee every night was $2,500. That's 2 people. Like, sometimes it was like 5 people, and I would give my money to other women who weren't as hardworking as me, who didn't have a work, So, and I know it's weird to even express it in that way, but I'm just doing it to paint a picture of how I'm sorry, what's the new word for it?
I'm trying to come out, but we can just use brainwashed. It's fine. Everyone knows what that means.
How brainwashed I was at that time, like legit. And so, basically, what I tell people is there was 3 turning points. Because they're like, well, how did you get out of it? Like, what happened? That's always the thing, because I would have never got out of it because I loved that person. I loved the people around me. And if something happened to them, we were all accountable. Like, everybody got punished. So we had this mindset of like, oh, we all got to work together, right? So the biggest, the first red flag was one of my friends. Her name is Cinnabuns. She took the shot, and we did our thing, and we were in the hotel room, and I remember like waking up, and you always kind of wake up, and so I was shaking her, and I'm like, hey, Cinnabuns, get up, we gotta go. And Cinnabuns never woke up. Like, I'm literally shaking her. I'm like, we gotta go, like, Cinnabuns, get up. So now I'm shaking, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, what happened? Is somebody hurt? Like, and then in that moment, step 1 was like, wait, that could have been me. Cinnabuns was 14.
Oh.
Yeah. So I looked at her like I was responsible for her. I was 17. So I remember calling the house mom, and I'm like, hey, so a house mom is a term of a woman who's aged out, who just watches over us. And she's trusted within the community. So we call her if there's ever a problem, if anything's ever going on, we call her. And she was like, Shametria, they called me Addiction. She was like, Addiction, look, don't Don't like say anything. Don't call anybody. You know the rules. Snake's gonna take care of it. I never saw Cinnabons again.
Wow.
And I always say that because we all know our code names. So the more that I'm on these stages, on these platforms, maybe she's naked, maybe, you know, she's out there. Maybe she'll hear my podcast one day and I'll get to see her again. But I just know I never saw her again after that. And so that was step one. That was the thing that like my brain, something clicked neurologically in my brain. Like fire and rock, like it did not feel right. It did not seem right. If we're family, why won't you tell me what's going on? Step two, before, I was always a very nice woman. I'm always everybody's favorite. Even in the midst of that community, I never got beat on and hit because I followed the rules. I never talked. I did what I was supposed to do. I went to school. I worked. I would wake up, get myself back together. If I had a problem, call Snake, call the house mom, get the doctor, give me a shot, problem goes away. Like it was sad, but even on my menstrual, they gave us makeup wipes, makeup swabs that you swab your face, and we put them up us because it would suck up the blood and you have to do. Like these are things that I just thought were normal.
Like the things that we would have never think of even at all. And yet this was normal.
Yeah, this was normal. I just knew what to do. So strike two was now he started physically hitting me because I started asking questions. I never asked questions. Where's Simmons? When are we going to find her? How? And I was asking the girls. Girls got mad at me and teamed up behind my back and told Snake. So for the first time, he beat me. He taped my mouth because I talked too much. And he ripped the tape off my mouth. And then he put tape on my mouth and put me in the basement. In Texas, there's these things we have called basements that are under the house. And he put me in the basement. And for 3 days, I just remember like I didn't eat, I didn't drink, and my mouth was taped. So that was strike two. Because now this is not right. Like
it does not feel loving anymore.
Like you crossed the line. Where is my friend? Where's this little girl who looked at me like a sister? Two, how could you hurt me when I've always been hurt by everybody? All I asked you to do was, like you said, I was family. You said I was your daughter. You said that you would treat me like this and that we were together. But all the girls turned their back on me. You turned your back on me. Now I'm like done. Like I'm almost to the point to where, you know, I'm about to leave or run away. But if I run away, who's going to look after the other girls? Because I'm like a leader here. So, strike three, and this is where my story completely changes. There was somebody that infiltrated the system. We call them a square. This is somebody who's been there, does not ask for services, but still pays and acts like you're doing the services, but they just are lonely. Those are people because you don't have to do anything. They still, you know, everything goes by. But he had been coming for a little over a year. I did not know he was a pastor. The FBI system. So I got so angry that I opened up my mouth to tell my story to him. And for the first time, he had my truth. He was wired. So they were listening to me, and I became an informant. I did not know this, though. I would have never said anything. But because I said the story about Cinnabons, and it was like basically a murder, like a overdose. Like I told him everything. And I just was crying, and he was consoling me, and you know, I didn't have that, and I'd never had that actually. Nobody did that to me. So a couple of days later, FBI comes in, kicks down the door, guns everywhere. This is where I said strike three came in. Because I was an informant, I did not get a prostitution charge.
Wow.
All the other women in the house got prostitution charges.
Wow. So that was because you had spoken up, that worked in your favor in the end, but it could have gone badly the other way if the wrong people had found out. And also, just so I didn't want to miss this part of two, because I know that, so somewhere in here, you got pregnant, right?
Yes. So in the midst of that, and the reason that I kind of like jumped over that is because we go straight to the past. Sure. But 16 years old, it was just one and done. Like, I didn't know about it. Right. But when we converted, remember I told you we went from taking like dancing to waitressing to dancing. And then they introduced the shot thing, which was like Molly or whatever. We would go to sleep and wake up. 3 months into it, I'm not having a period anymore. Like, I always told the doctor, I was like, I really want my body to be natural, and it helps me have problems. So that's when they said, okay, as long as you use the makeup and you could work every day, then you're good. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll do that. So eventually I stopped using makeup swabs. I'm like, I haven't had a period, but I wasn't showing. I was really small. So I keep going. And at the time I'm kind of playing sports too. I think it was basketball season. So now it's like 5 months into it. I know the rules. If they find out you're pregnant, the doctor comes, that's it. You're out of work like a week, you go back to work. Like, literally a week is the longest I've ever seen one of the girls who got abortion out of work. Seriously. Wow. So I knew after 5 months that it was too long and they wouldn't be able to do it, or they would kill me if they did the procedure. So by the time they found out, I was 6 months pregnant, and I wanted to keep the baby. And basically I was able to, like, they would kill their product, or they would let me have the baby and take my baby. So in the meantime, in between time, I did have a guy from my school who I never told what I did, but he liked me. Like, he was my school boyfriend.
Yeah.
He had a grandmother. So I told him, I said, when I was pregnant, we had never done anything, but he was like, look, I know you were troubled. I know you're going through stuff. I want to be there for you. Let me be the father. And his grandmother would watch the baby. And that's what we did. So we created like so after I had my baby, I only had her for a week. And then I gave her, to Deanne, to my friend. And then he gave him to his godmother, who till this day, he has my daughter tatted on his leg, and his grandmother has been there for us. We were there with her this summer. My daughter's there now, actually. And we were able to create that bond and have somebody there to watch my daughter so she wouldn't get taken. I also like to honor the fact that I know many girls who tried to do what I did, that they didn't have anybody to watch their daughter. So Snake took their daughter. And that's how they keep the cycle going, because there's no paperwork. We have a private doctor. There's no birth certificate. There's no social security card. There's no record of this child.
Wow.
It's another thing that I bring awareness to. No one thinks about the babies that happen when women are being trafficked have a child. And I'm more than sure they take them overseas.
Because that's like the purest asset you can get, because then the programming is 100% complete. Correct. You don't have to have any outside influences at all.
Correct. And you're raised as if this is their father, or this is their mother. Right. This is what, So.
Wow. So yeah, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I know it's deep, guys. So stick with me. And I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. I'm so glad, because these are the things people need to understand.
Yeah. As my why. When they ask me, because we'll get to my why, we'll get to the work I'm doing now. But I have to break the story down like this. So point not thank you for even bringing in my child, because then we can bring even more awareness to what happens to kids. How did I get to have a child? How was I able to beat the system? It was strategic. I really wanted somebody to love me. I really wanted a baby. So in the midst of all that, we go on. He breaks the system. They completely dismantle the organization from the top to the bottom, but they never find Snake.
Whoa.
They never find him. They found his minions. People told on different things. Nobody would tell on this man. And they got time. The women got time. The girls, some of them went to foster homes. One of them committed suicide because it was all she knew. We called her Roxy. You know, I honor these women because these were my friends. These were people who I loved, but they blamed me for breaking up the family.
For ruining their life.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, the reason that I never told my story, I didn't tell my story till I was 27 years old. I was so ashamed. But for myself, I was actually able, after the pastor came in, FBI came in, they took people everywhere. I had one, that was strike 3 for me. I said, I'm out. But I had my SATs, I had my ACTs, and I had finished high school with enough credits to be able to qualify for a GED. So my coach, the guy who was the pastor, was also a coach that owned a school. And so he said, look, you have a story. You're smart. You're beautiful. You can do this. Let's get you to college because they'll get you housing, food. They'll let you learn like education. All I needed was safe. I just wanted a safe place. I'm like, look, I don't care about any of that. I just want to get out the state. So I leave the state. I write my story to all these Southern Black HBCUs, and 28 scholarship offers come in. I didn't even have a GED at the time.
Wow.
I put in my story. 28 scholarship offers all over the country. Wow. So it was a little harder because most of the bigger schools, because I didn't have a diploma yet or a GED, they could offer the scholarship contingent upon me doing it. So there's something called NAIA, and that's like a smaller school that they have different regulations on who they can let in based on what credentials they have. So Southern University is proud Jaguar, and they accepted me and they let me red shirt for the first year. They brought me in on an academic and athletic scholarship. I used that time. I got my GED. I got to walk across the stage when they graduated their diploma class, because I graduated from God's Academy, technically, because I was able to get my high school diploma through them based on the GED program I finished. Used that, got a full ride scholarship, played volleyball and basketball collegiately for the next 4 years, graduated magna cum laude, finished, got my daughter. My first job was a community organizer, started organizing for the state of Louisiana, got a job as with the Louisiana Foundation Against Sexual Assault, got a job with the New Orleans Family Justice Center, started working with the Justice and Accountability Center, started volunteer coaching at the Nord Local Recreational Center. And that's why I tell people, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Had imposter syndrome for the longest, but I said, as long as I could change my story, I don't have to tell the story. And then it caught up with me when I was 27 years old, because it started kind of getting out. I was an advocate. I was working. I was doing all this amazing stuff. I didn't make a lot of money, but I was really, really good at motivating people and helping people to go to college and young girls to get on the right track. So people were kind of picking up on who I was. I was getting some headway. Me and my daughter wrote a book about our experience. Just talked about the rape and me having her. It's called The Reflection I See. And we got the news, all this great stuff was happening. And at 27, they say, look, we want to share your story in a musical. A hedge fund that's $1 billion hedge fund is going to sponsor it. We're going to pay for everything, pay you. We want you to share your story. They bring all these big people in. They're sitting in front of me with suits and stuff. And I start to share my story. Oh my God. After I shared my story, I shared the story, but it was in a different way. It was like, I was so grateful to meet this man when I was 15 and these women. They brought me into their family and I completely messed up everything, because like that was how I was sharing it. I didn't know what trafficking was. I didn't know what a pimp was. That's another term they use. I didn't know that I was great, like sharing my story, making them out to be the heroes and me out to be the villain. Because I never shared it. I just went on with my life. So after I finished sharing my story, everybody's like this. And the woman who is a counselor and over the project is bawling. And she grabs me and she's like, did you, she asked me questions. She was like, have you ever heard of trafficking? I was like taken? She was like you're doing sexual service for money, not on your will, with drugs, and you have somebody who's manipulating you and allowing you to do these services, but they get paid off of it. So finally, I didn't accept it for weeks.
You didn't know what it was particularly yet.
No, and it would have completely changed my story psychologically. So basically, after that, I found out my true story. I started going to conferences, training, seminars, getting healing, doing the work. And I raised a lot of money for people because then I started sharing my story. But that's where my PPP comes from. People turn my pain into their profit. And they do not connect it to my purpose. I didn't get paid for it. And I felt like because I was being trafficked and not getting paid, that now my story is being shared everywhere and I'm still not getting anything for it. And I'm working for not-for-profits. So I decided in that moment to create Unleash to Speak, which is a platform where I help survivors to advocate for themselves, to be able to learn how to share their story, to change laws, as well as to get compensated for their story so they can continue to share it. And I started Home for Grace with my partner, Sophia Willits, which is a home for women who have been trafficked. And then I got my real estate license. I started getting into the real estate game and just kind of started, changing my own dynamics so I can have the financial resources to be able to be a socialpreneur. And that is where I'm at now. That's when I started sharing my story, how I met Ann at a conference in Washington where she was sharing her story. And then we both realized that, wait, we both were in this space where Ann had somebody who had her thinking that this was right. I had somebody thinking this was right. But our mind is what saved us. And we got into consciousness, we learned awareness, and we were able to really come together on this platform, which is my why. I don't want anyone to ever go through what I went through mentally. I don't want anybody to just do something for other people and not connect service back to it to help pay it forward. So I know that we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon, and my story is long, and to anybody who this may have affected in any way, please take a deep breath and know that, I'm here with you. You're not alone. I'm here if anybody needs to kind of talk through this, but this is real. It's happening to women right now that are just like me. But my goal is that because I made it out, so can they. And what you make it out of qualifies you to help others that are still in it. So, Ann, I just thank you so much for having me and letting me share my story to raise this awareness. And it got better. So, I'm just one person.
No, but it is so amazing what you're doing. And this is really what this show is about. And this is why I was so delighted when you said you would co-host right now, because this is how we change the world. This is how we change the world with love. This is how we connect to people and their real experience, and then find ways on the ground to change it. And next time we're going to talk even more about the new social entrepreneurship that you're starting for women, which is even super exciting. And remember, everyone who's watching, remember, that's what's really exciting about social entrepreneurship, is the ability to not just give, but also provide a way to help people sustain themselves, to make your impact sustainable, to have money that can come back in and keep it growing even long after you aren't running it anymore. You want to set up something that is sustainable over time. And this is the real beauty of what this does. And Shametria, I just want to thank you again so much for being here and for sharing your story. I know that every time you share it, it touches you. It touched me, and I've heard it before, and it touched me again. And this is going to make such a tremendous difference in so many lives. And what people can do here is they can look up your information that's been showing throughout the show. They can look at the notes. You can look at mine. And you'll hear more next time about what Shametria is building, about the Socialpreneur Mastermind that I have, and find out how you can start, because it's never too soon. It's never too late. You don't have to wait till you're older. You don't have to wait till you're richer. You don't have to wait till you're retired. You can look at this woman. She's doing it now as a young woman, right? So if you think you have excuses, find what it is you're really passionate about, especially something on the ground, something that you've experienced, something that you know about, something that you have an intelligence and understanding on, or get intelligence and understanding and research and talk to the people on the ground so that you can make that change. We're going to have to wrap, but you will see us again next week, same time, same place. So we'll be streaming on, let's see, that's 12 p.m. noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And Shametria and I will be here. We're going to interview another incredible mover and shaker who is changing the world and runs a chain of bakeries to help rehab ex-con women and teach them how to make their own income and become independent again. So you're going to just want to be here. Meet Tammy Jordan next week with Shametria and I. Thank you for being here. Send us a message. The email's on the screen. And be well and love someone today. Take good care of them and yourself. Bye.
Bye.